We are live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Quadcast, the podcast where we break down political boundaries one cast at a time. This is episode 2, and I'm your host, Cavolo, representing auth-left.
Oh, I'm Mark and I'm representing auth-right.
My name is Tim. I'm talking on behalf of the Libertarian.
And my name is Lina. I'm talking on behalf of the Libertarian Left, aka the Truth. I'm sorry.
Alright, so in the last episode, Tim and I introduced our ideologies. So if you haven't watched that, the VOD is in the description. Also, it doesn't matter if you watch it before or after this episode, because today it's gonna be more introductions, but from Lina and Mark this time. That said, I'm gonna roll the intro for today, if I can, because I'm not sure I can.
Very technocratic.
Yeah, well...
The ancient spirits don't allow that. Get that omnisci on this technology, man.
Alright, that was the intro. It worked. I don't know if the sound was there, but I guess we're gone. Well, the intro was very scripted, so I haven't fumbled with my words this time, but yeah, we can start with the introductions. Who's gonna go first? Who wants to go first?
Left. I can go first.
Alright.
I can go
So-
left. I can go left.
I mean, you're representing the right, so you can't go left, I'm sorry.
I can go both at the same time though.
Nah.
What? No red-brown lines?
Alright,
It's always for the National Bolshevik bros.
Mark, come on, start your introduction.
Okay. Oh, my bad. So, hello, gentlemen, ladies, and everyone else. We are here with the auth-right, and I'm the representative of the auth-right. I would not adhere myself to a particular sub-ideology of the auth-right as a whole, but if I would be to have a gun put to my face and said pick now, I would pick falangism. And the host Antonian vote, so falangism, as all we know, is emerged as a far-right party in the coming up and during the Spanish Civil War. And Spanish Civil War and what led up to it was pretty much, I would say, kind of comparable to what happened in Italy and Germany. Kind of, if we are talking about political turmoils, it was pretty much the same. Red Scare, battles on the streets, complete political radicalization. And so, in a sense, one man appeared. One man by the name of Jose Antonio Primo de Rivera, who started the Falange as a separate movement, and then united with Ramiro Ledesma Ramos to create Fejons, which is Falange Española y Junta 17 Nacional Sindicalista. So the idea of Falangism is not as the other way ideas of the third way in the 1930s and 1920s, like fascism or National Socialism, because Jose Antonio died prematurely at the start of the war. He was captured by the Republican militias and shot dead. So they still though have one book published by him, which is just his anthology of speeches and quotes. So this is the only way you can really understand what he was talking about. And let's start with the framework. I view the ideology of authoritarian right in the ways of the progress. then the social structure, and then the economical structure. And so we will go one by one there, right? So let's go with progress. Progress is a big word, right? It's we have the progressives, we have progresses in technological sense, we have progress as in just movement of time. And here, I would adhere myself to being, I would say slightly even anti-progress in some ways, but pro-progress in the other ways. I would say that the technological advancements that we have right now they're wrapping up. The speeds of which we advance technologically is so fast, we really cannot catch on that. If it's the easily, I would say the example of this would be what we have the situation right now with AI art, right? It's constantly advancing. We have this new thing came out, I think like a few months ago, that like creates very hyper-realistic videos. I think maybe you have seen them, very hyper-realistic videos. And of course, the AI is not as perfect as humans are in the way of like the detail, but the amount of content that AI can produce in both arts and just information in general, I would say in the informational output is like millions of times faster than like the entirety of humanity can comprehend that. And I heard that there has been some pretty big scandals of like the entire researches being based on like AI made things. Like some research papers were just made by AI, and then some other people thought, oh, that's a genuine research paper, I will use it to like to I don't know, other researcher, like try to work on that, right? So this entire example of the AI, I used to say that we're playing with fire here a bit. We are playing with technologies that we won't become God, but it will, I would say, lead to pretty much overwhelmment of our current society with the technological advancement. It's going to be too much at some point. And so my ideal solution for that is we either somehow need to be more mindful of what we're advancing, what we're progressing, and somehow do kind of a control regulation on that, right? And in perfection, even go and start a regress until I would not say go back to monkey times, because I'm also against this entire primitivism thing, because I believe that it is too radical in a sense. But somewhere to the points of like early 2000s, maybe 1990s, I would say we at this point we had all of the things we need for life to survive and sustain and thrive as a human species. I would say we had most of it, right? As I mean, not all of us would thrive, but we had technologies. If we would expand them on large populace, all of us would be able to thrive with the technologies we had in 2000s and like 1990s. So that is the progress. And I am, in that sense, I'm regressive. Now, the social structure. And I'm going to start to talk here about a big thing here that most likely I'm going to be 3v1 here, is the concept of nation and what nation really is. To me, nation is a final stage of the spiritual, organic evolution of the man. It is basically a gigantic archive of culture, of art, of architecture, of the advances and achievements of a certain type of cultures and of people that they got through years and years. And through that, of course, as any organism, every organism has its own organs. Every organism has its own mind that controls it, which is the state. Every organism has its own will, which is the destiny, for which every nation destiny is different, and each nation has its own destiny. And in the end, I would even say that here's where I would clash, and I would very seriously clash with the individualism and what we had the great thinkers of the 19th century and what 19th century taught us. Like we have Freud, we have Marx, and we have Darwin, and all of these three. I would even say that the most harmful one of these was Darwin, because he equated a man to be purely biological without understanding the deep spiritual meaning behind the man. Yeah, I'm right now not speaking in any Christian context or any religious context, besides, of course, the context that I understand that there is two different realms, the realm of material and the realm of spirit, of the spirit, right? And a human being stands in the middle of these ones. It's 50% material and 50% spiritual. And that's why the nation, by being all of the result of all of our spiritual side, is a purely spiritual being. Therefore, it's not be traceable in the materium, and therefore, Darwinian theory doesn't recognize it, right? Because it does not exist, because it's not material, as an animal would be. Then we have, of course, Marx, who created the entire concept that the entirety of the history of human beings is just a class war, and and most of our actions that we perform can be explained by this simple phrase, class war. And the ending, if you look at that, the ending goal of communism is to end history, because if the entirety of the history is class war, right, we have constantly two sides. The communists destroy the bourgeois, which was the only the second class. Therefore, with the destruction of the second class, the only one class stays. The class war ends, and therefore history ends. Right? We, as an auth-right, I understand history completely differently. I understand it as much more spiritual than just class war. And I understand it as a fulfillment of destiny and going of the culture of the different cultures as a right, and which is the final stage of every single culture, the civilization and the civilizational empire, upon which everything has been building on. And human in this final stage acts as more of a cell of a bigger organism, and him acting as a cell gives the person, first of all, the meaning of life, to be a part of something greater than himself, to achieve this part of being in this spiritual big organism, which eliminates the calls for nihilism, the calls for life has no meaning, yeah, because in organicity it does, and in the higher stage it does, right? And then the final one, economics. Economics, I would say that in a political podcast like ours, economics should be a more of a secondary issue, kind of. It is still important, it is very important in that, in the end, we have all these cool ideas, lovely. How do we make them in truth? We still need money, right? We still need, in our working society, we still need some kind of physical framework to do it, to fund it, to actualize it, and which comes through economics. Economics should be treated as a tool, not as a goal. That's what I would say. And here is where falangism comes back, and national syndicalism comes in. As I have already spoken, the organic society has different, its organism has different organs. Every single one of them has different roles. And this is why I'd say economically best reflected through a guild system, which can act either completely independently from the state, being gigantic for example, corporations, or maybe a bit state mandated by becoming a medium-sized corporations or like small businesses, right? And all there's all, and the government just looks to prevent the creations of big monopolies. But I would even go as far to say that guild systems not only provide a more structured approach to the economy, which also reflects the organic nature of the cultural organism, it also provides us with a societal framework for the people to live in. Because, as I would say today, for most, we go through the education system, and we're thrown out in the street and say, okay, see you, goodbye. Whatever we find you there. And in the guild-based system, a person is being born in a family, which is most likely going to be in a guild. They're going to receive a guild education, and by the end, when they grow up and become a functional member of society, they're already going to have a framework, a societal framework to rely on, and they already have a basic set of skills, which you can find them a job, and a stable job. They know that they won't lose it, or it will go extinct, because it is still the syndicate transit, and the economy is based on that, right? So yeah, that's how I see it. One big family, one big organism. Everyone has their own role. Everyone is working together, can rely on each other for one and work towards one giant cultural destiny of the organism. That's pretty much it. Thank you.
Thank you for your introduction. If anyone has questions.
Yeah, I guess I was wondering if you could maybe explain the guild system in words.
Yeah. So I would say that the guild system, I base it off how the medieval guild systems work.
Right.
But maybe more modernize it a bit with some economic democracy and the democracy of the laborers. Even though I would say, what?
Sorry.
That the workers have a bit of a say in what they do, what they can. But I will not even in production sense, because again I would say that the employers of the guild and take much higher risk, because they are the ones that get they need to fill in the quotas. If we say that there is a big control over the market, they need to fill in the quotas that the state provides them. And of course, they're taking the risk. If the guild starts to fail, they're going to take the financial risk of the entirety of the guild failing, and potentially maybe entire cities going into disarray. Which is, of course, then we need to be much bigger infrastructure on the employers themselves. They would have all their own committees. They would have their own connections and constant supervision, and not even supervision, but a dialogue on what they need. Which maybe if there is like a severe lack of steel, but the government here sets a work hours like only 8 hours in the mine, right? But they know to fulfill the plan they need 9 hours. Then they can go and talk to it, and it's a constant dialogue between the state, the employer, and of course the employee them. They can always come up and say, okay guys, so this 9-hour shift, both of my fingers are broken. Yeah.
Sounds like you're talking about something like trade union.
A bit, yes, I would say so. I would kind of.
Anarcho-syndicalism, as some would say. Well, that's interesting. Very nuanced. Thank you. I don't see how the state intervening in the free market and slashing, the right to work, which is the name for being able to go into any profession you want, making mandatory certificates, bound to your class or whatever you're born into, and by the way, completely ruining the division of labor we have today, which is best at cutting opportunity costs, or at least making the best out of it. But I can see your point, and you did mention some of the benefits you'd hope to gain from such a system. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Well, I have a silly question.
Okay.
How do you spell falangism?
I can write it right now in the Fair enough.
I was wondering about that too.
Wait, I might also misspelled it. Okay.
No, you spelled it right.
Yes. Yeah.
I
Heard?
That's very fair enough.
was asking because I had to put it in the description and I didn't know how to spell it, so I'm glad I
Okay.
spelled it right.
Okay. Yeah. No.
Very good, very good. Yeah, I was also curious about something else,
Okay.
about economics being a tool rather than the goal.
Mm-hmm.
So that's interesting. We did talk about this for a show for a sec there, and I wanted to keep this for now, but don't you think that economics... well, first off, why don't you tell us what do you think is it a tool for? You said it before, we still need money, right? But not really money that makes anything happen. It's actual, resources being traded and worked on. And so
Yeah, I just use it as a phrase, for the money part. I didn't know how to describe it at that very second, so I just said money. But yeah, I would agree. Yes, I define economics as, of course, the trade of resources, and we do like more and most of the trades, because if, for example, to develop some kind of a region, right, we still need to get somehow resources from that to that region. We still need to have supplies for that region. This is where economics comes. You know that.
Well, you need economics for everything. You need economics every day so you don't starve. Your palace.
And this is
going to be. I wonder what you think about taxation, because, I mean, look, there's probably no one here who's going to be able to make an ethical argument for taxation. How you think that should work? Because, well, rightists are known to be less about taxes and redistribution, but you still think economics is a tool for something. So what is it a tool for?
The tool for here is, as I mentioned, the destiny nations and the cultural organisms, and for each, again, as I said, it's going to be different. And if we're, for example, taking like a destiny, I would say, an example of, like, I don't know, Russia, right? And if you say that, like, the destiny of Russia is to reclaim the imperial lands, then the economics should be used in preservation of that goal, right?
Okay, you're using economics. Does that mean regulation, or does that mean having your people, being part of this great organism of the state, having them work to the best of their ability and being rewarded for it in turn?
Exactly that.
That's the second part.
Yeah.
Would you call yourself more of a free marketeer, or would you?
I would say so. I would say that hard regulations, if for example, we can of course point to Soviet Union and how they try to do the collectivization, it just does not work, right? It does not work like that. And I would say that sometimes, of course, you need regulation, because, again, I would point to Russia's of the 90s, and we would see the oligarchs, we would see the gigantic corporations coming in, we would see complete chaos.
State failure. They were selling off all these state-owned
companies
to like 10 people. That was their fault.
It was not even that. They were selling it, and there was like only 10 people who actually knew like economics is, and that's what happened again. So.
Huh? Well,
I can chime in here.
They were an oligopoly, so you're going to have inefficiencies in the market. They still have these problems because all the oligarchs bought up all this stuff after the Soviet Union still don't know how to run their companies. Like, they don't have to run them efficiently. There's only so many people in this industry that it would be called an oligopoly or one of them. Well, that's a fault of state failure.
I'd say the issue was the lack of economic education for more the free market system, because they sold them to a lot of people. It's just that most of the industries closed down. This happened in Romania as well. A lot of a lot of industries closed down. A lot of factories just closed down because the people there didn't know how to run them. The ones that survived were, well, people knew how to run them, and because they knew how to run them, they kind of just skyrocketed in comparison to the rest, and then it created a massive imbalance of power.
Oh wow! I've
That-
never
yeah,
heard
yeah.
about this like this. I always assumed they just sold it off to like a few people who had the money to actually buy the stuff. And then I guess
That was
No, no,
definitely
in
part
Germany.
of it, because some people had more influence with the new government than others, so they kind of used it to pull some of that. However, I'm just going over what happened in Romania. I see lots of industries that were shut down like 20 years ago or something. Like they last like 5 to 10 years after the privatization, and they just died.
Well, they were probably run inefficiently before privatization, and then people tried to continue to run them while the whole economy was restructuring and also opening up to the rest of Europe. So, of course, you're going to have people, you're going to have downsizing some industries and upsizing other industries.
The issue is that the upsizing never happened. Or and like, well, it happened in like new industries, new technologies, and so on, obviously, because like they're new and came in. But like our industry was either like sold off to the foreigners, which I mean, whoever owns it, I guess. But it was either sold off to others, or it ended up shutting down. So domestic power is kind of low.
You know, that actually, yeah, that's what happened. I remember from, if the memory does not put a fault on me, what happened there is that Soviet, yeah, when it dissolved, what the economists try to do, like the leading party, is like, we're gonna take all of the industry, count it all up, how much basically the country costs, and then we're gonna make basically tickets and distribute them of equal value and distribute it across the entirety of like Russian Federation. So people would like have the equal part, basically like small equal parts of the entirety of the industry, and so they can like organize it themselves. They can all so basically how it would work is that I would guess is that if there was a factory, right, and the workers working it for like I don't know like 5 years now, they have the community in there. Of course, the Soviet Union collapses. They're all given these tickets, and the idea would be that they all will go and put these tickets into this factory, and they would buy it back for themselves, right? This kind of market communism type thing. The problem is that when you say to people for 75 years or how much Soviet Union existed that money is evil, and never teach them about money, yeah, and just say we're on the great trail to beautiful future of the red wolf, right? And then all of a sudden you say, okay guys, so we're redistributing the private properties, here you go. Of course people don't know what to do with them. They thought they were completely useless, and so then 10 smart people who actually knew what it was all about came around and said, hey, I would buy this ticket from you for 5 rubles. And in fact, it would be worth like 1,000, right? And people were like, yeah, that seems fair enough. I had not like, because again, we need to understand it was all in the era of complete deficit of basically everything because of the 90s, right? And so of course people want easy, fast money. Nobody would even think of the implications that it would do. And so in the end, what happened, these 10 people bought so much, they owned nearly the entirety of the Russian industry.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And that was interesting. I'm currently pretty uneducated on that, but they never should have done that in the first place.
Yeah.
I mean, look,
Yeah.
selling off national industries is a good idea. You can't do it in the way they did. Be derailed so many ways, and this didn't sound too smart either. Do you want to get back on track, guys?
Well, if I want to add, the issue was that this treatment was also encouraged by the West in shock therapy, and it was encouraged in all the post-Soviet countries. Each of them did their own thing with that, but it caused, especially in the former Soviet Union, it caused some economic collapse and the oligopoly going on.
At least they're better off now than they were 30 years ago. So,
I have just one question for Mark. You said like culturally you're a bit progressive, but also a bit not progressive. So I was wondering which, in which areas you're progressive.
I would say in the area of, for example, like in environmentalism, I believe that the entire, like the forests, and especially the European forests, they should be preserved at all costs, just like anything else should be, just like any other forest or plain, God's green earth should be preserved, because they, in the end, they all in some kind of a biological ecosystem, and destruction of one will lead to terrible things to another. So we need to preserve it at all costs, but we should not be at the same time all about it. But it should become, of course, in the end, like an issue that should be brought up to the wild public. That like because in Russia, for example, what we have right now is we have foreign and Chinese industries basically owning the entirety of taiga, and they can do whatever they want in there. And the problem is that taiga is it is basically the second lungs of the earth, just like the Brazilian forests and the Amazonians, right? And their destruction would lead to awful consequences, and of course, and like, and so like the global warming. And I would say because of we still need to leave this planet to someone else after, right? So I would say I'm progressive on the issues of environment. I am regressive on the more to the what we would see, for example, feminism. But even that, it's an entirely different issue. I have thought about it for a long time now, because let's just say that man and woman is a completely different being, and they have completely different roles, and trying to equate one to another is not a good idea. That's what I'm gonna say. So yeah, and I'm also completely.
go ahead.
So yeah, I am completely pro guns. I would say that short barrel pistols should be widely available. I would say that semi-automatic rifles should be widely available, and for any person who had gone through, for example, through an army, through military, through even police force, of course, with the background checks and I would psychological checks, they can have fully automatic firearms as well.
Okay, so
Not necessarily careful, but
what do you think? Okay, you said that man and woman are two different things. So like, what do you think about the LGBT community?
yeah, please.
LGBT community.
Okay, right.
I would say that there is a. Oh, I'm on a very thin ice, gentlemen. I am on a very thin ice. It's cracking. It's cracking.
Go ahead.
I would say that honestly, live and let live.
Okay.
But I would go the cliche round of like. I would not even cliche. I would say it is a result of identity politics, and it is a result of the individualism as a whole. And I would say it is not like, because conservatives to fight it and say like, oh, they're gonna teach kids how to do butt sex, right?
Yeah.
But I think that to just like not have that, we just like what did conservatives teach us? What did they conserve? Nothing, right? The kids are getting taught how to do the butt sex because the conservatives do anything to prevent it. and I would say in a nation and community oriented state, right? It would not be as prevalent if prevalent at all, because people would just be more thinking of the thing of being part of the society as a whole. And even though absolutely there might be someone who thinks, yeah, I'm a woman, okay, yeah, that's fine. If they can give their 100 to a nearby factory, absolutely, no problem with that. If they think they're a man, if they can load an artillery gun the same speed as everyone else, absolutely, let it be, man. I say anything else.
All right.
Well, there are many things that make me cringe about that, but let's keep going, I guess.
That's it, yeah.
Yeah. Anyone has any more questions? No? Okay.
I kind of do. It's though I don't know exactly how to formulate it. Why do you like nations so much?
Well, again, as I said, it is the highest point of the spiritual evolution of man. It is not about me liking nation. It is more about me realizing that there is such a concept as a nation, and it is pretty much biological, but in a more
Okay,
spiritual sense.
Then is it only humans have nations? Is it because humans are special in some way?
Yes, exactly because of that.
This reminds me of Hitler stuff, but alright.
How is that Hitler stuff?
Yes.
Like, you know how he used to think, he thought that the Aryan race was like...
I'm talking about human race.
Yeah, you basically said what Hitler said, but instead of Aryan race, you basically said it about the whole humanity.
But how is that?
Here's
How
the
are
thing. Human supremacism is like everywhere. Like, I don't think it's like out of the ordinary. I just wanted to see if that's where his belief came from.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I ain't sugarcoating that thing. I am pro.
Yeah, me too. Humans are great. Humans are
Oh, I like humans.
only way, really. I mean, look, if you're not pro-humans, you can just go off
I
yourself.
mean, no, yeah, I am pro-humans, but you know, the way he explained it, like spiritually, the nation is spiritually the highlight of humanity, is like, you know, reminded me of Hitler
Are
nationalism.
you crazy? You're pro-nation. You mean you tell me you're... But
Yeah, I am pro-nation, but not because it's the spiritual highlight of humanity. I mean, I am pro-nation because I like nations, basically.
no, I think
Yeah, I don't. They asked me to.
the ethical or moral argument for a state a lot more than the utilitarian argument presented last time.
What? Sorry, I couldn't hear it.
I think I like it when statists talk about having a state like from a moral perspective, as Mark just did,
Oh,
from a utilitarian perspective.
I see.
I can sympathize with that. I don't agree.
Well, Lina, are you ready to give your introduction?
All right. Since I represent the libertarian left, I'm gonna have to start with the most stereotypical thing, which is gonna be class warfare.
Yay!
So, because I'm going to show kind of my own interpretation of it. Because well, I've read Marx. I think he's outdated as fuck. I think class warfare is a thing, but not exactly the way it's commonly phrased. Basically, how we separate the owner class and the worker class. This separation has existed throughout history. I don't think it is necessarily the driving force of history. I don't think you can analyze history with just one framework. However, I think that this framework is a fairly useful one for that, because you generally have the owner class, which sits at the top, and the worker class, which sits at the bottom. Now, how do we differentiate between the worker class and the owner class? how does one earn their living? Is it by working under a contract or under their own doing, or is it by simply having ownership of something, meaning that they gain the money from that something just because they like lend it to someone to do their work, for example. So this is why who owns the means of productions matters, because the capitalist owns the means of production in our current system, and that means that the capitalist gains the money that is produced by the means of production, depending on what the contract with the worker says. I do think contracts are important, and that's why I'm not going to go against the market, surprisingly enough for some people. And uh,
That's pretty surprising, yeah.
No way.
but I do think that class conflict is real, and the value is created by labor, and because labor transforms a resource into a more valuable resource. Of course, the market is going to set that price. Labor by itself, completely like you can't make mud pies, for example. You know,
Yeah.
the mud pie example is a pretty classic one. However, labor, when used right, can transform a less useful thing into a more useful thing. It creates the value of that use. It is the key thing that creates the value. I don't think that, like, as long as you have one thing that's less valuable that can be transformed into something more valuable, you cannot do it without labor. All right. Any questions on this part so far?
Yeah, don't you recognize? I mean, you did say Marx was outdated, but don't you recognize that he did name some other factors of production, such as land and capital? They are both also used in production, and it's not just labor that creates the value, it's also land, capital, and time, which is interest. I mean, are you just going to ignore that part of, like, leftist doctrine, or are you seriously saying it's outdated and we shouldn't listen?
Oh, no.
That's the part of Marx I actually understand. That's the only thing that rings true to me. So
the reason why I focus so much on labor is because that's the part that's usually contested.
Okay, are you kidding me? I mean, people. There's also capital. I mean, that's. Marx well, that's part of the class struggle you want. The struggle for capital.
Yeah, capital, land, and time are also important. Time, I would put time in labor because
Oh, wow. So
well, labor takes time.
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, so an investor who's gonna like forfeit his wealth now and give it to you, and he's going to want some future profits, right? You're going to form a contract, and that's usually what economists refer to when they talk about time as a factor of production. It's investment because you're forfeiting consumption now for more consumption
I think
later. So an investor wouldn't be exactly the kind of worker you're talking about, right?
No.
Yeah, but that's important to recognize. I mean, time is an important factor in production. Right? Somebody needs to give you the stuff to work with now in order to have more stuff later.
Well, definitely. I just think that the capitalist class is unnecessary for this.
Okay, well, I think we're getting more concrete with this ideology.
Because what the capitalist class does is it brings the land and the capital. However, there's nothing that says the worker themselves cannot own the land and the capital and manage themselves.
And some do. I mean, these aren't fixed. I'm sorry, we're not at the debate yet. Let's go on.
But I just asked if there's any questions to clarify things because I know I didn't explain the entire thing. So I wanted to see where the loose ends were, so I knew what to explain more.
I'm good.
All right. Moving on, to go off, since we had the auth-right going earlier. Nations are invented. Nations are invented identities. The borders are imaginary lines that should be erased.
Okay, how?
First of all, okay, that actually takes a lengthy process of unification and through supranational unions that cede their sovereignty, or well, uh, you need more economic equality first to completely erase a border because of all the severe consequences that would come of erasing all borders in an instant. You know, the migrations would cause quite a lot of economic issues.
Okay, so we
Not
erase all the borders. It's all gone. The culture stay. The people
Mark,
on these lands
Mark,
that they.
Mark, there. Okay, she's doing her introduction. Please let her
My
do her
bad.
introduction. The
My
questions
My bad.
later.
I got a bit too into it. My bad.
yeah, but
Yeah.
I formally apologize.
Oh, good. But basically, I think borders are something that is just invented for the sake of being, for the sake of the nation, for the sake of the state. And I do not think such things are necessary in a truly humane world. Um, Now let's talk about my core values, which would be liberty and happiness, human happiness. I think we should work towards maximizing both of these because they are correlated. I do not think human happiness is truly possible without freedom. And I do not think freedom can lead one to anything other than human happiness, as long as we have the right kinds of freedom. Because you can have a man in a desert. He's truly free, not oppressed by any state, but he's just gonna die. You know. So I think we should categorize freedoms in a rather, I'm gonna say the L word, liberal way, with positive and negative freedoms. Positive freedoms being the actual ability to do something, and negative freedom being the lack of constraint to not do something. Now, this categorization has been used by liberals, which is why I called it that, although I do think it applies very well to my framework as well. Because, well, how do we gain negative freedom? By limiting the power of the state, which is good. How do we gain positive freedom? By creating an environment which is economically prosperous for everybody, through economy for the people. Now, the way to create this can vary. I do not believe in excessive use of state power for this because that's just gonna give the state more power, and it's going to use it to limit negative freedoms whenever a slightly less angel person comes into power. Therefore, we have to create a framework in which people it is in their own interest as people, as a person, to create more positive freedom for everybody, to create more economic prosperity for everybody. So we need to align a person's self-interest with the interest of the economy. And how we do that, I believe, is by conflating the two classes and making the workers also the owners. The reason for this is because, as my lib-right colleague would say, profit is pretty good in a business, right?
It's important, yes.
And what if the worker decides how to make that profit and can fail or succeed in that in a market environment?
Well, I actually am. I'm pretty much on par with you on that. I actually believe that's already possible in liberal Western societies right now.
No, definitely. This is why this is what we generally call market socialism, and it is a general.
Is that the actual term?
Yep.
Okay.
And it is generally quite liked by more moderates. However, I pair this with strong unionization in case we do have issues. We need a power structure that is uh, fairly democratic with retractable powers, where if somebody does an oops, you can easily retract their power. So we don't allow for a democratically imposed authoritarianism. I do think that all functions of power should be retractable by the people, because I do not leaving someone in power for a set amount of time. It basically gives them that amount of time to fuck everything up.
Yeah.
if they wanted to.
Right.
On top of this, I want to talk about hierarchy because I believe another reason why we have to get rid of the current capitalist model is its hierarchy. Its hierarchy is unconsensual, in my opinion, because somebody already has the land, somebody already has the means of production, and you just have to accept that they have the land and the means of production and work for them until you can get land and means of production. This this also applies to the state. The state has a hierarchy which is fairly unjust. You have a lot of bureaucrats, a lot of people in there that do their own thing. They make the machine work. However, I think that all hierarchies should be consensual, justified, democratic, retractable. So anybody who is above you as a manager, because I do believe we need some sort of hierarchy for the division of labor. Somebody has to manage the thing, somebody has to work on the machine, and that is just a fact of our modern economy. The person who runs the thing should have the consent of the people who are being run. And I believe that's it.
Oh wow. Thank you. May I
Interesting.
jump right in there? I'll take issue with your. Well, I mean, you did talk about democracy quite a bit, but I'd really like to know what you think about it because it's. I mean, look. So you want the consent of the people to be known. How? Is it going to be a majority vote, or how do you kind of figure that out?
I do have to admit I'd have to look more into ways of getting rid of majority rule because we need a system where consensus should be ideal. However, you can resort to a, let's say, two-thirds or majority vote if nothing comes of it.
Okay. That
This
sounds like a
system,
compromise, but
yeah, this system is already used in the Zapatista municipalities, which is an anarchist-like society over in the south of Mexico, which the
well,
Mexican government likes to shoot at a lot and not recognize, despite the treaty that said that it should be recognized. It is very isolated. Its economic prosperity is highly limited. But I heard that their crime rate has gone down since the anarchist councils took over, and they are doing pretty good.
okay, that sounds interesting. I'm gonna have to look into that. But for
Oh,
now,
definitely.
some other questions.
I
for
had
you.
never heard of that thing. The only one I heard of the anarchists was the Chaz zone and how that thing ended up. But yeah, actually,
Fucking LARPers.
bro, bro, I cannot do these guys. I watched like one of the videos. It's like it literally just said like day by day what happened there, and man,
Really?
what a great thing California or whatever there was. Lovely
It was
society.
in
Yeah, I need to
Seattle. This
actually
one
look.
was in Washington State.
Oh my god. Okay, now it explains a lot actually.
Yeah.
Explains a lot now. Yeah.
Yeah, I consider all of the people
Cool.
who participated in that LARPers.
Yeah.
They like to act as if they are principled anarchists, but in reality, they just want like the flag.
They also, I would say, it's because most of them, as I would say, like the power dynamics. Even if you look at what happened in Chaz, there was kind of a complete chaos when people tried to like do commune, and then one guy came and took the entirety of power because he just had guns with, and then basically incited like a martial law until the arrival of police. And I'm pretty sure like two guys even got killed and all that. So plus dozens with like bullet wounds.
Yeah, yeah. That didn't work out, and that's.
No, not really.
I think that's anarcho-communism in action. It really comes down to everybody just wanting stuff and violating each other's property rights to get it. I'm really curious as to how you think your market socialism system should be enforced, because you did talk about negative rights, and I totally agree with you. Negative rights that's the absence of force, and those are very important aspects of liberty, I think. Way to really, I mean, that's the only way to really talk about liberty, because there's not really, I mean, look, positive freedom, I've heard it before, it's from a man called Berlin or something. I don't see it. I'm sorry. It's like your right to have stuff. There's no such right, I'm sorry. But I'm curious as to how your system is going to be enforced.
To go on the more positive freedom, I think, for example, people have the right to live. However, to live, you need food, you need water, you're going to need housing, you're going to need this and that. How do you have the right to live if you do not have the right to own a house, for example?
Well, you can have the right to own a house, but you're not going to have a house. Just saying that you have the right is not going to produce a house. Someone is going to have to build that house for you. And what makes you think you have a right to someone else's labor or body?
Oh, definitely. It's just that, for example, I have the negative liberty to own a yacht, but I don't have the positive liberty. You know that argument?
Yeah, that will be my argument to be made, right? Because just someone saying, oh, I have the positive liberty of owning a house, that doesn't make me owe him anything.
Oh, yeah, obviously. It's just we need to maximize positive freedom. God damn it, neighbor's dog. I don't know if you can hear it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, we need to maximize, for example, home ownership, people having food. We need to maximize that. How we maximize that is by economic prosperity, as I said.
Yeah, sounds right. But you're not going to get any of that. Mess up everybody's negative freedom to own shit and trade with it. Well, anyways, that's my point of view. But again, back to how to enforce your system, because I mean, are you happy with the world as it is today? I'm sure you aren't. There's a lot of big influence in everyday life. So I guess we need of that, right?
To enforce the system, to actually practically get to the system, there is an authoritarian way and a libertarian way. The authoritarian way was already tried, and they went for the fucking planned economy and to destroy the market because they had so much power. They just didn't do what they promised, because initially, if you did not know, Lenin promised actual worker democracy, but when he got power, he just kind of took all of that away because he had the power. And now the libertarian way of achieving this would be unionizing, creating militant unions that go on a general strike demanding the means of production.
Okay, well, so you're just going to dispossess part of the population by force in order to rein in your anti-force system of governance, or I guess anti-governance? That sounds great.
Sadly,
yeah, that's gonna work.
Sadly, that's the only way I can see it practically working, because to enforce any system, to go from any system to another, you need to use force.
No, that's absolutely untrue. You can just dissociate from the state and other people who use force and work together cooperatively. That's what ICE is about. But you guys seem to be very prone on like getting into people's face with your guns and whatever.
That sounds like something Mao.
You don't need guns to do this. You don't need guns to do this. You just
I'm anti-gun too.
You dissociate the capitalist. Okay, how do I explain this in a better way? Put it in actual words. So you know how the capitalist needs labor as much as like the labor needs the means of production. Well, what if the labor just stops?
Right, that's peaceful disassociation. Okay, well, yeah, that sounds a lot better. I hope you didn't.
Yeah, that's what I meant by general strike. I did not mean like full-on revolution with guns and all of that.
I did hear something about them being military. Yeah.
Oh, militant in the sense of being pro worker democracy.
Oh, okay, right, I got you.
So like radical, okay.
Yeah.
Radical. Yeah, that makes more sense. Well, glad we got that straightened out.
Yeah, because I thought, yeah, there is gonna be like just workers from nearby factories storming police headquarters and getting guns and like returning back to the factories.
Oh
and
no 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 no!
building a gigantic
That's just
fort.
gonna cause more chaos and
Yeah,
violence.
Yeah, I think so too. So
No,
thanks for
yeah,
straightening that out.
To be more specific and to talk more about strikes, this is what is called a stay-in strike, where you lock yourself in, you lock the owner out, and you just keep working and doing your job.
Well, I mean, that is dispossessing the owner of his property, but I mean,
Yeah.
that wouldn't be exactly peaceful. That would be aggressive, but I can see the merit in how that would be at least non-violent.
Yeah, this has happened before, and fascist militias have tried to crack it down. Mussolini. It has happened in Italy in 1919. However, the unions decided to back down after the government agreed to some demands. This is known as the Biennio Rosso, so like the 2 red years.
That's interesting.
Thanks for adding that about Italy.
Yeah, Italy is a great topic.
Yeah,
On the right, left.
I
Italy is really good about that.
I hate having to, explain how fascism actually wasn't socialist to right-wing people.
No
I
way.
hate that.
No, we're gonna have a great argument about that.
Actually, guys, a national.
Oh, Mark
Socialist.
put that out there.
That. No, I'm not.
Okay. Well, okay.
Maximum. I'm classical fascist. Maximum. That's like radicalist of them all. But again, I'm.
So yeah, I've got a few more questions. So first off, I'm curious. Why do you think that workers owning their own like factories and stuff that's legal, right? So worker co-ops, they're legal in most Western countries today. Why don't people just go ahead and do that?
Part of it is corporatist propaganda and education, corporatist specifically. A part of it is just the tradition of the traditional business model, as I would call it. It also takes a lot of courage to go outside the norm. It is generally discouraged, and it is also in most countries actually slightly harder to make a call. It takes a lot more paperwork than for a normal business.
Okay, so I can
And for that,
see the last point. Sorry.
and to create a co-op, what you need is to get a group of people who all have enough assets to do so already in order to create it from scratch. And on top of that, it has to compete in a system of companies which treat their workers worse.
Yeah, that should make it easier. Are you saying that capitalism is going on in our heads? And if we just had the right education and the right people, we wouldn't be living under capitalism but under Marx?
Yes! Yes! Absolutely!
Okay.
That's crazy.
Okay, guys, it's all in the head, guys.
Okay, there's one distinction to make here. There is, in our economy, I can identify 2 big parts: the mode of production, which is capitalist, and the mode of distribution, which is a free market. I do think capitalism does not mean free market. Capitalism means capital ownership of the means of production, or to be more specific, people own the means of production through capital rather than through labor.
That doesn't make any sense. You either own something or you don't. So capitalism would be private ownership of the means of production. Capital ownership of production is nonsense.
How would you describe a worker co-op then? Public ownership?
Now, worker co-op, much like corporation, would be public. Yeah, it's publicly owned. People make decisions by voting. That's a co-op.
I see. By that definition, yeah, I see where you're coming from.
But look, it wouldn't be socialism because it wouldn't be state ownership. If they agree on it by voluntary contract, then it wouldn't exactly be socialism. I mean, not under my understanding from socialism.
Yeah.
It could fall under this market socialism we talk about, because the market, free market, is one where individuals are free to associate with each other, and so that would make it possible to have co-ops. And I think it's horrible how people have to fill out paperwork in order to create companies, and they have to like fit their company in these set system, in these like there's always forms of different companies. You have like in America, you have the incorporated, and my country has a lot of like small like definitions of different types of companies you can form. They usually have a co-op version of a company you could form in there, but you need to fill out paperwork as well.
Yeah. To clarify more on co-ops, they have actually been rising in number, and there's been studies done on this in Nordic countries, where a co-op has about 90% resilience in like its first few years compared to a traditional, like a privately owned company, which has a resilience of about 50%.
So if worker co-ops are actually better than normal companies and more productive and more efficient, then why don't like regular companies restructure into co-ops?
Because the people in power just like their money.
Okay, that's interesting. Because I think they would want their company to run as efficiently as they humanly could in order
Nah,
to
I
gain a whole
actually
profit, which is the set money that people like and everybody likes.
I actually disagree with
Have to
that
avoid all the
because
money.
I disagree with that because it's not just about the money, it's about power. A capitalist wants to stay in power, wants to keep managing the company and have the biggest salary. It's not strictly about the money, it's about everything.
Get it straight. It's either power or money. But
It's
if you tell me,
both. It's both. It's not either this or that. It's both. They both
look,
want the money and the power.
I'm for a voluntary society, which is a society where the role of force is minimized. And I mean, I say that power would be having force over other people, which is violent and
Uh,
aggressive.
let's
So
talk about our current society though. Money equals power in our current society because lobbyists, interest groups, and the government.
yep, yeah. I mean, not exactly. There's an exchange ratio, pretty much.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of regulations which make it harder for small business to start, which would make a co-op harder, right? I just don't buy your stuff about co-ops being so much more efficient, because then just every company would reform as a co-op, and there would be. Actually, that's another thing I want to ask. Okay, in a co-op, everybody gets a share of the profit, right?
Yeah.
Um, do they need to buy in when they hand in their application? Because if the company, the co-op, is owned by the workers, then every new worker starting a job would need to buy a share, right?
I think this depends on the exact co-op because there are already pretty big co-ops like the Mondragon Corporation. I don't think they make their workers do that. Um, but how I would say it would ideally work is it would be subtracted from the first few pays slowly.
Okay. Okay. I mean, look, that's normal. That's called investment. People forfeit current consumption for greater future consumption. It can work by many small investors who actually work at the company. This would be called a co-op. And so investment is going to always have this element of, you only own something if you buy it first. And so they would have to buy in. And don't you see that there's something good about, so you can have co-ops in a free society and they will exist. So at least ideologically, socialist people will start to form their own co-ops. But isn't there something good about just being able to walk into Burger King and be hired there as a chef without having to buy a share, be able to quit in like 2 weeks without having to sell your share? That's pretty good, right?
For short-term labor, I never said that for short-term labor like that, contracts wouldn't still be a thing. Just for long-term employment, if you're working there long-term, you should have a stake in how it is run because you basically belong there.
Okay.
Your work makes up a lot of your life.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. And so we're coming into an age where the labor market is becoming more volatile and people are switching jobs more and more. And I think in such a fast-paced economy, it's a lot better to be actually mobile, be able to switch to a better job.
Actually, I think.
with the
Go on, Aline.
Cavolo.
I mean, yeah.
So I think what you mean, it's not a flexible, it's volatile. It's unstable. And I think that's bad. I think we need to fix that.
Well, I mean, look, I can get that. I just think it's important to recognize that there's something good about wage labor. You can just start there, get your paycheck, and fuck off, and that's also something people want. So I think that in a free society, in the way I imagine it, which is just a society without the use of force by the state, there would still be wage labor because it's actually pretty good for people. I mean, that's why people sign these voluntary contracts, not to work at co-ops, but to work at, wage labor jobs. Anyways,
I have a counter argument. I think if we were in a society where the majority of companies are co-ops, then yes, it would make sense to keep wage labor as an option, because then the companies that are owned by capitalists are competing with co-op companies that treat workers better, and so the capitalist-owned companies have to keep those standards high. But in a capitalist society where the majority of companies are capitalistic, the fact that you just get your paycheck and you don't have to buy a share in the company and all that is just one good thing amongst the sea of bad things that capitalist companies have and do. So I think it's better to have more co-ops.
Okay, yeah, well, why doesn't everybody found a co-op then? I'm confused.
I mean, you've said it, because there's not enough education about co-ops. I mean, I was taught...
That's crazy. Don't you know how many students study economics every year?
I was...
knowing everything about economics.
Tim, I was taught about companies in high school, but I was never taught about co-ops. I was only taught about the capitalist companies. Like, is that fair? That's not fair.
Look, state education isn't fair, but look, you don't think keep talking about these crazy, greedy capitalists who own money. Well, if they only think about money, then why wouldn't they just form co-ops if they're so great for making money? I don't see it. I'm sorry. I mean, guys figured this out?
Because as I said, it's not just about the money. It's about the money and the power. Because, go on, Aline. Lina, sorry.
Because I have the actual argument for this. Because the money created by the co-ops is split among its workers, and it cannot be centralized in a way to give such a wide profit margin. Pay gap in between the owner and the workers.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, that's also part of it. Like, as a worker in a co-op, you earn less than a capitalist in a capitalist company, but it's, the working conditions are better. You gain more than the average worker in a capitalist. What?
You can't just talk about what you like this system to be like. You need to back it up with. I see it. I'm sorry. Why should democratic rule actually lead to higher productivity in a company? That's just.
Let's look at the Mondragon Corporation then, which is the biggest federation of co-ops that currently exists, and it is.
I have another argument too about that, because why the co-op is better at productivity, because the decision isn't taken by just one person, it's taken by all the worker, and it is scientifically proven that a decision taken by a mass of people is better than a decision taken by one single person.
Oh, wow.
I mean,
wow,
yeah,
that's
it's
a democracy argument here. Oh, I was waiting for that. Yeah. That's scientifically proven, you said.
well, yeah, it's I don't know what it's called. I don't remember what it's called exactly. It was that thing about
To be
guess.
clear, I do not subscribe to this argument.
Okay.
I mean,
Everyone
gang
just
rape
left
is
Cavolo
democracy
alone.
practices.
All right then, Lina. Just get your data and show that.
Oh, we're gonna have graphs? Yay! I love it turning into econ lesson.
I could prepare
That's-
graphs for
that's
next
enough.
time, but I don't have any ready.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
That's fine.
I mean, there's
Alright.
I think we could make a lot of empirical arguments to back our positions up, but it would take too long. So I'm a lot more in favor of actually arguing, and I just take issue when people make up their dream visions of how their ideology would work out in practice without having any arguments to back it up. So that's why I asked. But
So I wanted to look at the Mondragon Corporation and what they've done. They had the saved up money to pay their workers during COVID, like lower than their normal pay during COVID, to just stay home, and they did that. And they went back to work after the pandemic, and nobody got sick.
okay.
So this model clearly works, and it gives better working conditions.
Look, that's a single data point, and also can't prove that they've made a better decision than other people, because there's lots of countries which nobody was allowed to go to work, and the capitalist companies were like under regulations, not allowing people to come to the office. And, I'm interested to hear more about the Is that Mondragon?
Yes, MON
I'm
Dragon.
interested in learning more about that, but for the time being, I see the point. They made a good decision during COVID. I just don't see how proceed in the workplace can actually further productivity. It sounds like fantasy to me.
Well, here's another thing. As I said, these companies will succeed and fail under the market system.
Yeah, they should.
Therefore, the ones that do actually, like in a system where you have a co-op run by idiots and you have a co-op run by actually educated people, the idiots will obviously fail. However, these idiots will learn from the more educated people as they go along and like split towards the other co-ops.
Yeah, that's how it works in society. Actually, I have one more question if you're up to it.
Go on.
Are you in favor of voluntary society, as I talked last time?
A society where everyone can freely associate with one another, or
Yeah. And everybody does, so that's the idea, right? Not proposing a way of enforcing it, but are you in favor of voluntary society?
the only thing I would not be in favor of is the thing I consider non-consensual, which would be a capitalist style hierarchy.
Oh,
But
yeah,
anything
we
else
about
aside
hierarchy.
from that, I agree with.
Okay. Okay. Well, I'm not gonna start an argument about. I clearly disagree about how.
Yeah,
anybody
let's
and anything should be in violation of it.
let's
Oh my
just
god, guys, why can't we just give dollars and we'll live happily ever? We can just give everyone $1 billion and there will be no poverty.
Oh, come on, we're not talking about something completely different. We're talking
That's how
about
Cavolo speaks, actually.
bruh, no.
That's
That's not true.
That's gonna be interesting.
Oh god. All right. Well, I think it's time to end the episode because we're way past the hour mark, so it took longer than I expected. Closing statements. Let's go. Who wants to go first?
I can
I
go
guess
first. Yeah. Let Lina go first. No,
All right. I am surprised to not have gotten many arguments about the state itself because we have the auths here and especially the auth-left. So I have to say this line every time I end an episode: "Screw off, statist."
okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna
Okay.
give my closing statement as a response because, yeah, I didn't ask much about the state because I knew your politics. I mean, we're longtime friends. Let's disclose that to the audience. But yeah, since we're longtime friends, I already knew where I stand and I don't have many questions about that. I just think the state is better. Like, anarchy seems like and basically fantasy. I don't think it would work, but you know, long live communism. All right, next up.
I can speak now. I think that it was pretty fun. We had it again turned into an economic, which I tried with my whole might to avoid. But what is. So yeah, lib-left, waiting for the courts to work. Auth-left, USSR, auth-right, central banking. No, wait. Lib-right, central banking. Auth-right, made by God. That's all I'm saying.
And yeah, and in closing, I found myself to be a lot more disaffected from the auth-right guys' arguments because I guess I drown out the statism. And so someone comes along who actually talks about how the state could be gone and there would still be socialism and stuff. And that really gets me going. I enjoyed that talk though. Thank you.
All right. Goodbye, everyone. Thank you for watching this stream if you're on stream, or thank you for watching the VOD if you're watching the VOD.
Come back next time.
What?
Come back next time.
Yeah, come back next time. We're streaming every
absolutely.
Thursday. Do we keep the same time? Like 6?
No.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Could
Yeah.
probably do later next time, but
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Probably we'll be doing it a bit later next time. So yeah, every Thursday, we're here and see you next time. Bye.
bye.
See you guys.
Bye.